Hi, and welcome to Spooky Hours. My name's David Saunderson, and today we're joined by John West, author of Britain's Haunted Heritage, who's going to talk to us about the Tower of London. How are you, John?
Oh, I'm fine, thanks. How are you? Enjoying the
Uh,
sun?
yes, it's been a lovely day today. The Tower of London. Whenever you talk to someone and you say to any ghost hunter, paranormal investigator, where's the one place you would like to investigate? And they always say the Tower of London. What is it about the Tower of London that has made it the most sought after haunted place in the world, basically?
Well, there's so much history there. I mean, it was founded by William the Conqueror, and it's been a royal residence, a place of execution. It was a mint for a time as well. And even it was a zoo for a few centuries as well. And it's just so much history there, and there's such a power to the place and an atmosphere. And it's supposed to be one of the most haunted places in the world, so that's why all these ghost hunters want to go there. I think it's frowned upon, though. I don't think many ghost hunts are allowed there.
I
But
don't
the
think any. I don't think
beefeaters,
any. I don't think any of them are allowed there. I think that's the point. It's like something that they can't
yeah,
have.
yeah. The beefeaters are more than happy to talk about the ghost stories, which is good. And I went there the other year and was told a couple of interesting tales. But on the whole, yes, I'm not aware of any psychic team ever being allowed to go there and investigate. They'll allow straight documentaries, about the history of the place. But I'm not aware of any sort of documentaries being made in the buildings about the actual ghosts.
Yeah, and it always doesn't matter what kind of books, ghost books. And obviously it's in your book, Britain's Haunted Heritage. But it's been known as a haunted place for so long that you basically can't have a book about haunted London without the Tower of London being part of that. Now, what are some of your more favourite stories? Because there's so many of them. What are the ones that have really gripped your attention over the years?
Well, Anne Boleyn was incarcerated there and was, of course, executed there. And that's always fascinated me. And there's several ghost stories connected with her because she was kept in the Queen's house, which is a lovely timber frame building, and that's the governor's residence. And people have said the room where she was kept feels a lot colder than the other rooms. And they've also smelt perfume in there. And there's been knocks and bangs and groans, and they've even heard like chanting. And Guy Fawkes was kept there and was examined. In other words, he was tortured, and they believe that perhaps the groans are of him being tortured. And the beefeater that I spoke to had a ghost story connected with it because he said that the son of one of the governors used to play with two boys, but only ever on a Sunday. And no one else ever saw them. And he said they were totally solid, and he played with them all day, and he had a great time. And they asked the boy to describe them, and he described them as wearing medieval clothing, and the descriptions matched the princes in the tower, who supposedly were either murdered by Richard III or perhaps Henry Tudor, depending on which side you're on. So I thought that was quite interesting. And Anne Boleyn is connected with the outside as well. In the 1860s, there was a sentry on duty. I think it was 1864 actually, and he was found unconscious. And they revived him, and they were going to court-martial him because obviously that's a serious offence. Even now, it would be considered such. And he said, "Well, I saw a ghost." And they said, "What happened?" And he claimed he'd seen this white figure advancing towards him. He shouted out a challenge, and it ignored him. And as he got closer, he realised it was a ghost, and he put his bayonet through it, and he collapsed with shock and passed out. And he was going to be, as I said, in serious trouble. But two of his colleagues who are in the Bloody Tower, which is a bastion near there, actually saw the same thing, and they confirmed, yeah, we saw the figure too. So he actually got let off, which was lucky for him. And another time, I think it was in the 19th century as well, a sentry was on duty, and he heard the clicks of heels on the cobbles, and he saw a headless woman advancing towards him. Now, the suggestion is it Anne Boleyn? Other people will be headed there, including females, but was it her? So she's connected with that green. And there's also another interesting time slip connected with Anne Boleyn, and it was 1972, and there was a girl called Joan who was visiting the tower with her family. And the guide was talking to the group about the executions. Oh, they were all killed with an axe. And the girl nudged her mother, and she said Anne Boleyn wasn't killed with an axe. She said she was killed with a sword. And the mother said, "Well, how did you know that?" And she said, "Well, I just saw it." And she also described the executioner removing his shoes and sneaking up behind Anne Boleyn so she wouldn't hear what was going on. And the father confirmed that the girl had no interest in the Tudors, had never seen any documentaries about it, had never read any books, but she was the only one that apparently saw it. So that's regarded as a time slip, but that's unique to the period. I think it was Peter Underwood first wrote about it in his Haunted London book, if memory serves me.
Well, it's certainly fascinating if that, if that's the case, that she was able to see something that, there's no possible way she could have known.
Yeah, yeah. And Anne Boleyn is also connected with the chapel, which is just off Tower Green. And this is in the 19th century. And an officer was going on duty, and he was walking around the grounds, and he saw a light in the chapel. And he said to one of the sentries, he said, "What's that light up there?" And the chap was a bit blasé about it and said, "Oh, I often see that." And so he got a ladder, this officer, and he climbed up and looked through the window, and he saw a procession of figures, and they were described as wearing sort of Tudor medieval clothing, and they were just walking up and down the aisle, and they were led by a woman who resembled portraits of Anne Boleyn. And then all of a sudden the light went out and they'd gone. Now Anne Boleyn was actually buried in the chapel. She was put in an arrow chest and just buried as quickly as possible. No sort of service was held or anything like that, because Henry VIII just wanted her out of the way. So she's buried there along with some other executed prisoners. The suggestion is that they just keep coming back and sort of meeting up and whatever. But that's the only instance of those ghosts ever being seen in the chapel that I'm aware of.
The Tower of London is the home of the Crown Jewels. Are there any stories about that?
Well, there's a fascinating story connected with the Martin Tower, which is where the jewels were originally kept. And this dates from 1817. And there was the keeper, the jewels, was a chap called Swift. And one night he was having supper with his family, and it was just about 12 o'clock at night. So that's rather late for a supper. So I wouldn't advise that, because you get indigestion. But he was there with his wife, sister-in-law, and son. And they were chatting, eating, drinking. And then all of a sudden he saw what he described as a cylinder, a glass cylinder about the thickness of a man's arm, in the corner of the room by the table. And it hovered there for 2 minutes. And then it started to move around the table. Now, the interesting thing is it moved in front of the sister-in-law and the son, and they saw nothing. And then it moved behind his wife. And she screamed, "Oh, Christ, it seized me." So with that, he picked up a chair and threw the chair at the object, which vanished. And that was it. It's never been seen since. There's no record of it ever being seen before. So what was it? I mean, the theories are, was it some sort of electrical disturbance, like ball lightning? The most outlandish one, although it could be, for all I know, is a person suggested to me, was it a time-traveling probe from the future? So, from his description, because it was all liquid in it, you see, moving around, and it's just really weird. And the fact that it was like a glass cylinder, so it sounds very scientific, doesn't it? Perhaps it was something from the future.
What do you think of the Tower of London? I've been there a few times. I don't find it particularly spooky. I mean, obviously it's got a lot of history, a lot of blood and gore, and but I don't find it the most creepy place. What do you think?
I didn't experience anything when I went there, but there again, you get thousands of people there, and it's during the daylight. And the beefeater I spoke to told me that things happen at night when people have gone. I mean, for instance, in 1975, there was some screams heard coming from Tower Green again, and they were heard in the Waterloo barracks, and people rushed out there to see what was going on. It was a woman's scream, and they couldn't find anything. And then a few days later, it happened again, these screams. So they rushed out, they searched the area, could not find anything. And even to this day, there's no explanation what it was. But one theory is that it was the echoes of an execution, a lady called Margaret Pole. And she was the Countess of Salisbury. And she was related to the previous royal house before the Tudors. Her son was on the continent, and he was criticising Henry VIII for breaking with Rome. So Henry VIII's attitude was, if I can't get you, I'll get your mum. So he had her arrested and charged with treason. But she wouldn't meekly submit to execution, and the executioner literally had to chase her around the block, hacking at her with the axe and with her screaming. So again, is that an echo of what happened? And I can well believe that, because you imagine the trauma of a 70-year-old woman who's done nothing wrong, and just because of some petty, nasty man who wants to get his own back because the son criticised him that he's having her killed. So, really horrific. But again, that I'm not aware of that ever being heard after that time. It was literally just 1975.
Okay. I mean, imagine with lots of things, there's been so many executions there, it could be anyone's ghost. We all like to attach them to someone famous, but there has been so
Mhm.
much slaughter in that place, it could be anyone.
Yeah.
So I mean, it'd be interesting. I work next to the Tower of London, used to go past there late at night, coming home, or I say late at night, after 4:30 or 5 o'clock, it's dark, isn't it? And it's a lovely place. It's well worth visiting, even if you can't do a ghost tour there, or you can't investigate it. It's definitely worth going in, and it's one of, I think, London. It was one of Britain's greatest landmarks. Uh,
Oh, absolutely.
so it's well worth people going. Now, people could read more about the Tower of London and other haunted parts of Britain in your book, Britain's Haunted Heritage. I do advise people to read it. I think it's fantastic. We've spoken to you before, and hopefully we'll be able to speak to you again about some other
Mhm.
of Britain's spooky past. So thanks for that, John. I look forward to talking to you the
Thanks.
next time. See you later. Bye bye.
Okay. Cheers. Cheers.